Documentaries are about the people that you meet and the stories you can tell. Stories of tragedy, laughter, hope and desperation, across faraway lands or right here in your own backyard. This podcast brings these stories to you, the listener, so that you can experience the adventures of documentary filmmaking in audio form while embarking on daily adventures of your own. Welcome to Barefoot Media's Stories Within Stories podcast with your host, Simon-Holland. Jakob Wells is a scooter champion, drummer and filmmaker based in Perth, Western Australia. I initially discovered Jacob as a focus puller on the set of Jacob Graza's film King of the Bush. After finding out Jacob was a fellow graduate of Murdoch University, we initially started working together with Jacob as a camera assistant. After a short time, Jacob displayed a remarkable eye for image, and we've gone on to work on numerous projects together and been on numerous adventures, with Jacob always bringing back the goods in the camera department. Jacob's calm demeanor and outlook on life, which could only be described as humorous fatalism, got us laughing through some of the most challenging times on set. I spent more time with Jacob than probably any of my other friends in the last few years, and we've shared some remarkable experiences that we're going to now discuss. Welcome to the show, Jakob Wells.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
What's been going on?
Lately or just in general?
Just in general.
We've been chilling. Got a few things, project working on. Just the pre-production, you know how it is.
Yeah. So what would you describe yourself as, like a filmmaker now? You've come a long way since Focus Puller, right?
I know. I just want to make cool stuff, to be honest, with my friends. And like stuff that I actually like. If I get to see it and I watch it up there, I'm like, shit. Then that's what I want. I want to feel, proud of the stuff that I'm working on. Not just stuff that it's just like, oh, I'm just on this project just as a job, just to fill a role, Yeah. I want to make stuff that, I'll show my friends and I'll be like, yeah, this is sick.
How old are you?
23 now.
I see that. Yeah, that's it. But when life throws responsibilities, then you've got to do shit you don't want, which is really unfortunate. Yeah. But the thing is that you figured it out by 23. Did you know what you want to do and all that sort of stuff? Usually, you float around for your 20s thinking about that stuff.
Oh no, I'm still floating. I'm still deciding. I just take it as it comes, to be honest.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I want to shoot. I want to be a cinematographer, but I also want to work in music and I like fashion. I'd like to do that. I kind of want to do everything. So.
Yeah. They say one of the big definitions in life is if you figure out if you're a generalist or a specialist, do you like to do one thing and just be that and go deep on it, or do you want a little bit of everything?
Well, in the past, I've definitely gone deep on something. If I start something, I'll do it for 12, 15 years and I'll go as deep as I can. Yeah. I think I'll just do that with everything. So although I can spread it over multiple different subjects, that might be cinematography, drums or whatever, I feel I kind of just stick to that. Maybe I stick to 3 and I just keep going down and I just kind of don't stop.
Yeah. Because you do something. Have you ever been down a road and you're like, oh, I don't like this at all? A year into it or something?
Nope. I think everything I've started, I've continued now. So there's no hobbies that, I never was into games or anything like that. It was always, at the start, it was the freestyle scooting, in which I went down a rabbit hole for 11, 12 years.
Yeah.
And it was drums when I was 8. And then when I picked up a camera, I was 12 with the scootering and the action sports stuff. And then that's still here. So it's all the same stuff that I was when I was 12 years old, 10 years old. So.
Well, do you scooter now?
No.
So you have stopped something. So what's going on there?
Oh, that's physical. That's purely physical. You gotta look at responsibilities. Ideally, you grow up, you're gonna make money and you gotta be logical about it. And then after, getting shoulder surgeries, your shoulders put back together, your knees put back together, you start to think that restricts you from doing the other stuff that you want to do.
Yeah.
And then you're just kind of in a problem. So if you got to keep chasing that one thing, and then you just keep ruining your body. I mean, I'm 23 and there's so much other stuff that I want to do that I've been doing for years and years and years. So it would be silly to kind of, continue down that route and then just keep breaking myself. So.
Yeah, but the benefit of that is by the time you're old, it's going to be all cybernetic Terminator shit.
Well, I hope so. Because I got a body of a 50-year-old right now.
The first time I ever saw you, I ever really saw that injury and what that looks like in person after being a scooter champion and crashing and stuff. We just surfed in broom on the point that was supposedly shark infested. We didn't know based on the tide, those waves that were made by the tide.
And I'm shit scared of sharks. So looking back now,
that's sharky as hell up there too.
Yeah.
But I don't know, we didn't get eaten. We had a time of our lives. But then you were walking back on sand, carrying a surfboard or something?
It was a stand-up paddleboard, dragging it across the sand.
Oh, using stand-up paddleboards, that's right, yeah.
And then my shoulder just like popped out of its socket.
Well, I thought you'd been hit by a sniper. I was like, that's how fucked you went down. And then you're like holding your shoulder, rotting on the sand. And I'm like, he's been shot by something, some broom fucking sniper.
Middle of broom, yeah.
And then and you're screaming, and then you flip onto your belly like a cut snake, and then you like popped it back in. But I didn't know what you'd done. You just suddenly stood up and you went, yeah, I'm good. I was like, what just
business as usual.
I was like, what's just happened? I was like reaching for an EpiPen or something, like my first aid kit.
And then we shot for the next 2.5 weeks every day. So
I was like borderline calling flying doctors for about 2 seconds, and then just stood up and you're like, I used the ground to pop it back.
Now that was frequent, but then the more that stuff happens, and I'm like, wow, if this can happen out in like remote Kimberley, I kind of need to get this like fixed, because then it like impacts, it impacts what I was doing for the next 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
And then, I'm not going to be a little bitch about it and just like not shoot. So you just got to kind of deal with it.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll just get it fixed.
That's a good attitude. And I think that's something that doing sport, whatever sport it was, teaches you early. Because I can see a real difference between working with people that played a sport or did something like that, a hectic pursuit, and then people that didn't do it, because if they got injured, they'd be like, oh, you need to call a doctor. I need to get checked out or something like that. You just went, fuck this, and they kept going. So I feel like it's the same with me. The only thing I've ever quit is gridiron, and that's because I saw like, dang, I tore a bicep and I was out for 6 months, couldn't hold a camera, had to edit everything,
Yeah. And that's what happened every time I had surgery.
Yeah.
Like,
no work.
I'd be on I'd be shooting heaps. I'd be on these sets doing all this stuff. And then I get surgery. It'd be like 6 months, no camera, no nothing. And then by that time, everyone's kind of moved on. And then they might hit you up for projects and then you can't do it. And then they just move on to the next person. And then 6 months later, like everything's dried up. So you're just kind of like starting again.
Exactly. Does it freak you out living such a fragile life? Like, such a fragile work industry that you're going into?
Not really. I don't really think about that stuff too much. Like, yeah, it might be fragile, might be super competitive, but so when I started scooting, I was like, if you stick at something long enough, I mean, something's bound to happen.
Yeah.
So I'm not really concerned, whatsoever.
Yeah.
But, as I said, I just want to make cool stuff
with your stamp and your style.
Essentially, yeah. And look, I'm 23, so that's still pretty young. Look at all these other cinematographers out here; they're a lot older. So I mean, I got like 10, 15 years to catch up.
So what competitive advantage do you think you have other than youth on your side, against people that are already in the market? Wait, how are you going to enter? What are you going to do?
The advantage I have? That's a good question. I don't know. I think it's just, my introductions to action sports, music, drums, like punk, even like music videos. I think I've got a pretty good idea on what's cool and what's like, kind of decent nowadays in terms of, aesthetics and the ideas behind music videos. And as well as like someone who doesn't play an instrument or whatnot, they might see like, might be filming a drummer. You might have like a performance. And, if you actually play the instrument yourself and you've been there, done that, then you got a better insight on, how to shoot stuff, especially in that regard.
So you've kind of got one foot in this technically like film in the old school, but then you've got another foot in hip culture, cool culture, the kids of your age, what's going on.
I mean, I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
All depends on like the area. Obviously what's like popping here is not, the case in other areas of the world. So it's all very like location based.
You do a fair bit of travel?
Yeah, I guess. That's mainly just because I get bored, to be honest. It's probably it's not a problem, but I just get bored. I'm like home and I was like, I might want to go to Japan, or Korea might sounds cool, looks cool. And then, I mean, it's fun flights. That's the thing about like, I guess this freelance business is, the ability to work from wherever if I'm not shooting, and then, go to these places and see these things. And I know I like the fashion as well. So like Japanese fashion, Korean fashion, all that stuff. Cool. That's another aspect that's interesting. So traveling to all these places is just It's pretty cool. And taking photos as well, like cinematic photos and whatnot. I guess it's just
and just broadening influences and also sort of understanding how the world works a little bit, giving you a broader perspective.
Definitely. It's very interesting to see how like, especially different like social groups function in different countries. Like my friend lived in Paris and I go visit him and I see how much more sociable people are and like, you know, their way of life. Whereas when I get back here and then, damn, I'm going out maybe like socializing once a week.
Yeah.
So it's pretty
once a week's a ton for most people these at my age. Yeah.
But I mean, when it really just shows the difference in our culture. And maybe that's just like, you know, my personality that I'm not, you know, trying to hang out and socialize every minute of the day. But
no, you're right. Every country I've gone to has a different way of socializing. Like countries like Egypt and China, anything European is like very much going out together, going, you know, doing things, taking you out to different restaurants and stuff. America's more like having house parties themselves, like come to our house, everyone dress up, you know, that kind of thing. And then Australia, it's pretty few and far between any sort of social activity. Because I think everyone's kind of busy, but then you got home, family life, and it's very sort of a standard, you know, pattern of living. And if you're going to live really differently like you're living, I find almost like every time I came back from somewhere, I've got a broader horizon and then it just gets me one step further away from the people that I already hang out with, you know?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I find when I come back, it just makes me want to leave again.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but I don't know.
And also I find my stock, like this is the only place in the world I feel old. You know, at 40, I feel like everyone's like, oh, what? You didn't like have kids, you haven't done any of it. But like when you go overseas, your stock is high, way higher. You know, people are buying stock on a talent. I'm not saying I'm talented, but like a skilled 40-year-old that can move freely, doesn't have kids, doesn't have a dog to get dog sat, nothing, you know, like that's a good thing. But here they're kind of like, that's a little failure because you didn't go past that like standard way of living.
It's the bubble that WA is in. It's like a little cocoon, I guess.
Yeah.
And I guess what you do for work, but in like, you know, our field of things, you know, the greater world's much.
But at 23, you can traverse, you know, the internet and everything really quickly and Instagram and connect around the world and build tribes on, you know, Discord or WhatsApp. You know, so are you working at some sort of like, what do you call you? What's your generation? Are you a millennial or nah?
See, I never got that. Like what generation I am. Well, I was born 2000, so
2000.
What's that?
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, so are you whizzing around? Is there some magic at 23-year-olds know that the rest of us don't know? Or like, how do you guys, you know?
I don't know if there's a magic. I mean, look, my thought process with a lot of things is a lot different to all my friends as well. Like we have completely different outlooks. They want that, you know, normal job, 9 to 5, buy a house, stuff like that, stay in WA, you know, get married, have a girlfriend, have kids, that whole thing. But I mean, it just kind of sounds a bit bland for me, to be honest.
So what do you think makes you different? Can you look at your childhood and how you grew up and point to different places, like parts of your life where you were different from other kids out of the box? Or is this something you've developed from experiences?
I don't know. It's a hard. I mean, my brother is like the complete opposite to me. So I don't know if it's like experiences as such. I think the whole like scootering and the whole like, you know, growing up at the skate park had a big deal with it because, you know, it's like it's a very like free aspect.
You live by your wits.
I'm there like from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. most days, just running around.
Yeah.
So I think that probably has something to do with
like
it.
developing your own personality because you're talking to people, you're interacting.
Especially. And I mean, most people are, you know, just they're at home playing games or whatnot. When I was, you know, out with my friends at the skate park, I mean, my parents weren't there at the skate park. We were just kind of a bunch of 14, 50-year-olds just running amok.
It sounds like you had a 90s childhood in 2010.
I think so. Because what we do, we go to the skate park, we meet during the mornings, then we go to the beach, we go bodyboarding, we come back, and we just like, in that suburb, we just go around doing stuff like that, go to someone's house. And I think that had a big impact.
Yeah. Developing that's because, you know, pre-internet, if I can describe a world that sounds so crazy now, but you get on a bus, there's kids that are like 15 there that hate your guts, you know, they want to beat you up because they don't like the look of you or something. Yeah. You got to make them laugh or you got to develop some sort of personality just to avoid a beating.
I think it also and it toughens you up a little bit. People are very sensitive.